Welcome to Cleveland Museum of Art's Big Picture Strategy session. I'm Jane Alexander, and I'm the Chief Information Officer at Cleveland Museum of Art. And I have brought my Wonder Woman team with me, and these are fabulous, really creative, intelligent group of women, and we're going to talk about how our projects have really informed the big digital strategy picture for Cleveland Museum of Art. Cleveland Museum of Art over the last 7 years has been going through a $350 million renovation. What's great about a renovation is that it gives you the opportunity to really look at your infrastructure, look at your resources, look at how you'll manage and manage and processes and make them sustainable in the future. So under IMTS, we have network administration, we have technical services, we have media services, and we have the application management team. This is our little museum that next month will finally be done with the renovation, and we've been very excited. And multiple technology initiatives has really helped us has helped the museum look at digital strategy as a big picture. And currently, we have a museum-wide team working together to create a digital strategy for the future. But now I'm going to jump back. I started with the museum in March 2010. When I came, there were very high manageable projects that needed to be completed before the building was done, one of them being Gallery 1. At the time, we did not really have an application team. We had really one person who worked with business products. And so we were not given more staff, but we looked at what we had. And because the lights were on, we were doing best practices in our network administration, we reshuffled that to create a very diverse application team coming from multiple areas already in the museum. And you can see we have Andrea, who had been working in registrars. Nikki's our application manager, came from libraries. We have a developer, business practices, and Will, who's our new library analysis. So as I said, Gallery 1 became the test bed for how we were going to put together a strategy that we could manage. When I started on the project, they had a different concept, and as my role was to figure out how we were going to implement it and how we were going to use our assets that we already had to manage it in the future. But the current concept was a lot of standalone interactives that were heavily coded that would not be able to be managed in-house, and they would become expensive, and actually a lot of the hardware that was being proposed was already going to be outdated by the time we opened. So we sort of changed gears as a museum and looked at it closer. We were very lucky that we had a digital asset management system that already was going on the third round of digitizing our objects, and any object on view was already digitized, and it's about 90% complete, but pretty much every object we have a beautiful high-res image of. The other thing is we had a 15-year-old collection content management system that, although it was the user interface is clunky and it was dying, it did track and manage art movement extremely well. And being able to, and they integrate those systems and use them for these projects began to make us think of how do we integrate all our systems as a whole. So, I thought those were good. So, we had another huge project. It was selecting a cataloging content management system. We were between two large vendors, and when we really, people felt strongly split in half which one we should go with. And when I looked at what both of those did, neither of them did what we were already doing. So we decided that we would do an RFP to look at these vendors and ask them to work with us to include not only manage artwork, but also be able to document every document that's associated with an object, from its accession to deaccession, that everybody would have the same object, that there be an exhibition module that would be useful for the entire museum, and a conservation module. So in the end, it ends up we are building this, and it will be rolling out, and Andrea will talk a little bit about it this next month. But it was such a large project, we realized that this would not be done before our Gallery 1 opened. So we then looked at our digital asset management systems to sort of be our main back end for the collections and pulling all the metadata through our digital asset management system to then inform and run ArtLens, which you saw, and the collection wall and our online collection. These are just, with all these kinds of data, we really needed a system that when something goes on view or goes off view or goes to conservation or is deaccession, that it reflects dynamically. It was extremely important that our systems were managed that way. And this is, we call it the Nikki chart, but when we were, it is really, and it's been edited multiple times, but it is really important for managing all the objects and where we go, so that we know that everybody is getting the same information no matter what system or device they're using. And currently we are now developing our mobile, our iPhone version and an Android version for ArtLens, and it's been a much easier project because the whole back end has already been sort of set up for us to figure out how to work it out. Sorry. And this is a big thing, we say no one-offs. So now, when we look at projects that are happening in the museum and different areas come to us and tell us about what they're going to be doing, we look at how we can use our back-end systems to not only manage it, but help the content that takes a long time for people to develop be used in multiple ways. And so our little message in our department is always no one-offs. It doesn't mean that everything can be managed from our systems, but that a huge portion of all the major assets of the object you pull from one source. And all of our information is constantly refreshed, and so that it's always consistently getting new information. Even if it's the smallest thing, like a slight date change or anything, everybody gets it immediately, no matter what you're doing in the museum. So when the stars of today's talk are really the four people you see beside me, or three, sorry. There's a fourth here, and she has a talk tomorrow. Don't miss it. And they're going to talk about a few of the many projects that are integrated together that have informed the larger picture of the museum. And I just want to, these are the intertwined projects. Andrea, as I said, is going to talk about our newly developed catalog and content management system that we're all really excited to implement soon. And then, here, just move on to the, and then, you see all the things that we'll do. And then Jean's going to talk a little bit about how she migrated our entire website to open source for better and faster search and faceting, and it was easier, more streamlined for our mobile site. This was a huge project that also was necessary to implement the social media aspects of all our, you saw the lens, the person making a face in the Gallery 1. Those games are hard-coded interactives, but you can then social media what you've matched up with, and it will then connect to the object on our online collection where you can get live information and additional assets about the information. So we still made even the hard-coded games feel dynamic. Also, we're linking art citations and donors. We have now brought, there's multiple projects in the library, so then we're now taking advantage of all the information we have there to be pulled into our new cataloging content management system. And Nikki's going to talk a little bit about our Piction upgrade. This is really important because with all the different images and how we're using metadata and how we've structured it now, this upgrade will make life a lot easier for many of us, but especially Nikki. Also, she'll talk about our Arts in the Cloud project. We're one of the first museums that have used is putting our entire archival repository in the clouds, and that's I'll let her speak a little bit more to that. And lastly, the central table. This is so important that Linda has her own talk tomorrow, but this is about that every visitor has a unique ID, and now all our business systems from our enterprise, which is our development software, to our store, what people purchase, to our ticketing, to membership, finally can speak the same language without having the same applications. So without further delay, I am introducing Andrea Bohr, who will talk about our cataloging collection management system.
Okay, I don't have a whole lot of slides, but I do want to introduce myself. I worked in collections management for many years and on a custom database, and it has served its purpose, and we are looking forward to implementing within the next few months sort of a brand new paradigm, a whole new world for cataloging and managing all the information that is required for all these projects going on. This is the way back end of the collection cataloging side. The requirement, the hope, the dream is to build a unified and comprehensive database that is dedicated to collection content and guarantee one version of the truth for publishing all of that content. Some of you may have some background on this project. Jane and I talked about the needs assessment last year.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Well, this needs assessment was 3 years ago. But and I'm going to apologize because I'm going to show you demos of this system asynchronously. We are very heavily into user testing right now, and they are updating pages every hour, and I wanted to guarantee that you would be able to see something that worked seamlessly from beginning to end. So search, edit, approve, these are standard functions of cataloging systems. What we have here, I'm just going to give you some highlights of this system. There's 67 fields, which are indexed for standard internet search. So Boolean operators work in line. Users can refine their broad searches using filters in a couple different ways, depending on their preferences and how well they understand the underlying data. Search criteria are usually shown on the left-hand navigation bar or across the top as a breadcrumb trail. Users can review the record here or edit it. As you can see, the menu browsing is consistent whether they are viewing or editing. The categories, the data here is CDWA compliant. They're grouped into 5 menu items, which are pocketed, so every page expands dynamically. This is completely browser-based. When the user selects to edit a record, the database creates what is called a sandbox copy of the complete record in a separate database partition, allowing for a long edit without changing the published record on the fly. This is really important for us given these projects because one of the major requirements for this system was distributed cataloging. That is, curators, educators, conservators, everyone need to be able to contribute to the content surrounding the artwork and share their research in a single database. However, any changes to the record affect modules within the application itself, like loan contracts and shipping documents, as well as every application consuming this artwork data downstream, including collections online and ArtLens. When the user has completed all their edits in their research cycle, they can select to submit the changes, and the new record is launched into a 3-step approval workflow. This request to review and approve becomes a task item for each approver role in turn, with email notifications both to the approver of the new task item. The requester can observe the approval process on their personal site, and I think we're about to get there. This is the user launching an approval. Actually, this is the approver reviewing the document that was attached to show them what the changes were. As you can see, There's a new title for the new bridge. And the old title was changed to alternate. The approver then says, I do approve. There's the email message coming in. And because I also happen to be the approver in my single site, I can now see that the approval workflow status there has changed and is now waiting the next level of approval. This 3-step process was agreed on by our stakeholders. It goes curator, chief curator, director of collections management, just to make sure that everything is synchronized in accordance with curatorial goals and our legal contractual requirements that may be in place with the collections manager. The next feature of the system was uploading documents and document management. So, hopefully this one runs. Okay, without further ado, the realities of servers overburdened with multiple versions of the same document with little or no metadata assigned to indicate which is current, final, or even correct, or paper file folders full of useful but inaccessible correspondence, contracts, and notes. This needed resolution as well. Here you see a simple document upload process in use throughout the application. Document description and metadata is assigned at the time of upload. These documents become securable items stored within the database, accessible and searchable to all users with permissions. The big picture item here is, as we accumulate this metadata and assets that are directly linked to the artwork, we can support new connections among our publishable content as well as expand research support. And you can see there I am linking a deed of gift to that particular record. This would be likely a secured item. We haven't made that decision because we're not exactly sure when we start organizing our documents and sharing them. This is a whole new world of metadata that we're going to be building on the fly. We have a skeleton structure in place and room to grow. Connect. Another thing we wanted to do was connect dynamically with some of our other systems. So I guess we can call this integration of a sort. I don't have a video for this one. However, just to summarize here, citations and bibliographies are notoriously messy in institutions with catalogs predating unified library catalogs. Again, with the idea of supporting research and scholarship, we specified a simple interface in which the catalogers insert an OCLC number into a search field, pull via API the correctly formatted citation, users can further append the citation database row with the page number, annotations, contributor of the citation, and choose to restrict publishing of that citation. The database stores the OCLC number upon save, allowing for automatic refreshing of the citation details or the format, should that preferred format change. And our library, or any other library for that matter, can use that stored OCLC number to link from their catalog records back to our artwork records. Integration with controlled vocabularies for creators and owners, as well as the AET and TGN terms, was also required. This is a slightly more complicated scenario, as we need to support an encyclopedic collection where works within our Asian, Native American, and European collections have very different structure for identification of creation and ownership. In the end, we created a union list of our 15-year-old legacy person database, which allows the CMA catalogers to maintain the publishing authority over the attributions while providing a database of linked aliases in the ULAN to support search. The VIAF database can also be queried, providing standardized language and details for persons and organizations not commonly found in our catalog databases. Additionally, new records can be added on the fly to the local union authority. Positioning this database, the goal is here to position this database to link to our central table, which is a consolidated database of our advancement division's constituents, providing an enterprise-wide view of constituent activity wherever possible. Planning, there we go. Exhibitions module provides a unified planning space and a bird's eye view of collection activity for curators, conservators, educators, and collection managers. Exhibition, venue, and object attributes and statuses allow for detailed reporting and for the creation of review committees' agendas. This shared view provides completely up-to-the-date information for all decision-making stakeholders. Here again, documents and images can be uploaded with attributes and descriptive metadata for ease of sorting and search. Another feature is the ability to sync and unsync a permanent collection record from the exhibition instance of the record. Tombstone details might be changed or amended to fit the intellectual scope of the exhibition, or the other way around, if a record is edited over time, you don't want it to actually affect its original exhibition title or record 20 years ago. These changes can remain as unique versions of the record specific to that exhibition, or can be synced back into the permanent collection record following that standard approval process that we demonstrated earlier. Once the checklist is established, the planner selects a set of artworks using filters and assigns them to service requests, which will be linked to the exhibition. This loops photographers, conservators, registrars, and packers into the planning and scheduling process. Cascading from requests for photography, photographers can schedule their services and request art movement in turn. You may have noticed all approval and request workflows link with our Active Directory, supporting single sign-on and integration with Outlook Calendar and email as well. Integration with Active Directory allows for simpler tech support, and the shared platform for data and documents promotes efficiencies in staff time and data storage. And right now, you're at the very end. These requests end up in task lists for the various, we call them service providing departments. One last feature, and this one was very exciting, the concept of collaboration. It's impossible to determine whether this belongs at the beginning or the end of all these other supported requirements. Stakeholders clearly specify the need to collaborate before, during, and sometimes even after the publication or installation of a collection-related document or project. SharePoint provides templates for custom team sites and document workspaces, which users can create from their site and invite colleagues to join and collaborate. Sites can be customized on the fly with different web parts depending on the evolving project needs. Here I created a custom exhibition theme development site, invited educators to join, uploaded a couple documents, which you can see can be checked out, edited, uploaded, all with native version controls, including rollback in place. This functionality was a major draw for our stakeholder groups, envisioning a new way of doing business within the museum as well as with external colleagues who can be invited to join, share, and collaborate with us. Finally, a couple high-level points, bullet points regarding the specifics of the project and the application backbone. I'm not going to read them. That's it for me.
Okay, hi, I'm Nikki, and I'm the chatty one. I wanted to share with you a couple of the other backroom projects that we're working on in the applications team right now, just to sort of fill out the big picture of what we're doing to support digital strategy. The first is the evolution of our Piction Dam. We've been working with Eric and the Piction staff since about 2007 when we implemented our first dam system with them. That's right, we actually have 3, if you remember back to the Nikki diagram that Jane showed. This first Piction Dam was implemented specifically to support our object imagery, and we started that process by creating an architecture that equated an artwork with a record, so that one artwork that had multiple images would have a single record with multiple reference to all those different image files. Lots of things linked to a single record. This hierarchical structure was very easy for all of our staff to understand, very easy for them to use. But as they asked for more and more functionality, it caused some issues because it's very difficult to delve into the metadata specific to the images when the actual object is the pinnacle or the anchor point for all of the information about that artwork. So we plotted and planned and figured out what we needed to do and did what we needed to build out to support Gallery 1, to support the Art Lens, to support our collection online for our website. Now we're going back and we're cleaning up our original implementation. So about 3 weeks ago, we jumped into this project that we've been wanting to do for probably 2 years now. we did a complete upgrade to the Piction 7 application, and according to what Eric told us, we are the first ones to get it. So, yay! Our Oracle, the new Oracle capabilities that we got, the new application structure that we got, put us in the best possible place to flatten our legacy record structure for just our artwork image collection. We converted it in a huge effort from one artwork record to many images to one image is one record, which makes it very easy to get at all of the attached metadata coming out of the image headers. This allowed us to expand the functionality of the tools that our staff had requested be added to Piction over the years, because we'd spent a good 5 years requesting customizations from Eric and his team. So now our staff is able to associate detailed views and alternate images with light boxes and export them as part of dynamic PowerPoints, Excel checklists, printed contact sheets in several different formats, and batch downloads of selected derivatives for special project use. This was a huge boom, and our staff is absolutely thrilled with it. It was a long time coming. This also gave us the opportunity to fine-tune our integration with the new CCMS that Andrea just showed you. Those lovely images that were there, both on the reports following searches and on the object information pages, are all coming straight out of Piction. They integrate well with the thumbnails for non-collection objects, say for exhibitions, that are uploaded into the native SharePoint system for use. This also allowed us to provide a lovely light box for our collection catalog system users that shows them all available images for a specific object. And unfortunately, we don't have a shot of that. Okay. Finally, this upgrade over the past 3 weeks has given us an opportunity to fine-tune our APIs and optimize our integration so that we can actually include more metadata, more derivatives, and more options in the information that we're flowing from our collections management system through our Piction system, our main DAM, into the support systems that feed our collection online and feed our Gallery 1 collection wall and the ArtLens application. This is a great way for us to get more information into the public view. If you walk through the exhibition hall at all and glance toward the Piction booth, you might have seen a screen showing something similar to this, a basic DAM interface. This is the brand new Piction 7 Discoverer, and it is our awesome DAM right here, showing the linked detail views in the new record structure and all of the tools using the new architecture for our artwork. Just as a note, our Piction DAMs do not contain just artwork information. They also include all of our editorial photography, they include videos, and they include things that we need permanent URL links to on our website, things like lesson plans and other documents that are permanent in nature that we catalog in other systems for finding purposes.
That's damn good.
That's damn good. It is. Okay. The next project that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is actually a fun one. This had 3 motivators, and it sort of gelled all at once. 3 different groups started talking about, well, what do we do with all this stuff that we have to keep forever? And those groups were our museum archives, a wonderful staff of 2 people, brand new digital archivist that was just hired about a year ago, who has been working on inventorying permanent records in digital format from the 100 years of our museum. She got to the point where now she knows what she's got to manage, she needs a system to do it. She's got about 1.5 terabytes of information and was ready to start working on a system, so she came to IT. At the same time, Jane was taking a stroll through the photo studio downstairs and saw towers and towers and racks of shiny, beautiful gold CDs and DVDs, and said, Bruce, who is in the photo studio as the administrator, Bruce, what are those things? And he says, oh, That's all of our master images for everything. She's like, well, why aren't these in Piction? I was like, no, we don't ingest these into Piction. Piction is for public use. These are the untouched, unedited masters. I make 3 sets of every DVD, every batch of images. We send one to the archives, we send one off-site, and I have one here in case I need to pull it for publication purposes. So Jane looks at him, walks out of the door, beats her head against the hallway wall, and says, we got to get rid of this. She asked me to do a little bit of calculations, and the cost to provide all of those gold-plated DVDs is more than my salary. Just thought you might want to know that.
With the 2% increase.
Exactly, with the 2% cost of living increase. So we needed to find a way, quickly rather than at a slow pace, to make the whole system of backing up all of the image data coming through our photo studio and all of the image data overflowing from our conservation department much more efficient and much more secure, because obviously a big giant tower of gold DVDs is not the answer, and neither is squirreling things away on people's jump drives, people's PCs, and filling up every bit of network storage space like our conservation department tends to do. Okay. The other impetus for this project was our very small but growing collection of artwork that is in time-based media. Yes, we have 8 whole objects that are time-based media. We're not nearly as big as MoMA in that area, even close, but we do want to start thinking about it and managing it properly. So this was part of that discussion as well. So we formed an interdepartmental team with the archives, collections management department, photo studio, and of course IT to address an archival repository, to make sure that all of these assets are protected and accessible in the long term. So, because this is ultimately a long-term storage system, we wanted to make sure we were compliant with the best practices for archives, and that means an OAIS open structure that allows us to ingest and then properly manage all of the metadata as well as the digital assets in batch format for both preservation planning and for long-term administration. And as we go through that, to also provide access not 1 year, not 5 years, not 10 years into the future, but make sure that all of this information is accessible 100 years from now and more. So the first thing we wanted to start with was looking at management software. What could we use that was OAIS compliant that could get us there? Our IT department has a known preference for open source, so we started looking there and checked the archival literature to see what was available. We looked at DSpace, we looked at Fedora Commons, we looked at a newcomer, Archivematica, and we also looked at the for-pay software solution Content DM. Ultimately, we chose to pilot 2 of those based on archives use cases that we found in the literature and people we talked to, and ultimately chose DSpace. We knew that even with choosing DSpace, there would be some development work that our team would have to do as far as custom loaders and customizing the search interface. Now we knew what we wanted to use. We'd done some piloting. Then we had to figure out what we were going to do to house this giant archival repository. In the meantime, we had done repeated inventories of all the different potential documents and resources that we had discovered in various places, stashed away in closets and so forth, and realized that we had an immediate need for just over 30 terabytes and a growth rate that would put us over 100 within about 5 years. So we had sustainability concerns. Nobody on our IT staff was experienced and comfortable with migrating hardware or data of that size. It's not something any of us had ever done. It was much larger. So how do you manage that? How do you manage the cost of hardware? How do you manage the rollovers? Well, we looked at a couple of solutions and did a lot of number crunching. We looked at using an in-house server and storage and what we would need to invest in as far as additional staff, additional hardware, additional resources, additional bandwidth, and so forth. we took a look at some hosted solutions for DSpace, using software as a service and letting somebody else worry about those issues. But that didn't give us access to the application. We couldn't do any customization, and we knew we wanted to. Ultimately, what we settled on was choosing a cloud-based solution for our server and storage, but allowing us to maintain full access to the server for configuration and upgrades and to the management software. So we could do any customizations we wanted, including those loaders and the search interface. We started looking, and very fortuitously, we found a top-flight local provider who provided cloud services on a professional level. They have multiple Fortune 100 companies and are the cloud provider for the Cleveland Department of Homeland Security, which means they were priority as far as energy, as far as keeping up in event of crisis. This was exactly what the doctor ordered. Nice thing about it is, Jane happened to be a friend of the owner of the company, and he was a very philanthropic sort who was willing to work with the museum and make sure that this solution was something that could be done at the museum. Despite our rather limited budget, they negotiated an absolutely amazing in-kind donation of this cloud space for the long term, not short term, very long term. We had concerns about access because part of the archival materials that we were going to be putting into this DSpace repository were the very large master images of our art photography and of our conservation photography. We were really concerned about performance. What happens when you try to upload or download or search all of those things? Well, it just so happened that this local provider, which is Blue Bridge Networks, is about 90 blocks down Euclid Avenue in downtown Cleveland from us. They just happen to be on the trunk line for the major internet service provider in the area, of whom we are both customers. A couple of phone calls to the ISP, and boom, we were right on the same node. We were able to access all of the servers that we needed to over at Blue Bridge as if they were in our own offices right next door. We had absolutely no degradation of performance whatsoever. And possibly the archivist's wish list item that made Leslie and Susan, our archivists, the happiest was the fact that they got a wish list item that, to their knowledge, no other archives had yet, and that's the built-in out-of-region geographic redundancy. Whenever this archival repository was loaded with data, immediately it's replicated to a couple of out-of-state locations so that in the event something happens to downtown Cleveland and our repository and our museum disappears, all of our assets are still available in Grand Rapids, Michigan or Columbus, Ohio. So just remember that when you try and get rid of us. Okay. I just wanted to give you a little taste of the custom loader that Will, who you saw in the picture Jane showed, put together for DSpace.
He wasn't allowed to come because he's a man. We will only.
No, he's actually working. We're having fun. He's working.
He got the short straw, or the large.
But he put together an absolutely wonderful custom loader for DSpace that allows our departmental records officers to put together their archival submissions simply by opening a directory on our network storage, copying the folder name to give it a title, and dragging the documents into a browser window. The little capture area identifies the files and starts off a series of scripts that extracts all of the header information, puts it into the proper format in XML, creates the proper archival derivatives that we need if it's not already in one of our preferred formats, packages everything up into a proper OAIS submission package, and starts the upload process. It logs everything so we know exactly what's happened, hash checks everything, and we're on our way. Right now we have the first, 16 terabytes have been loaded, and we're finishing additional mappings for the next set right now. Some of the issues that we've run into are the need to map collection groups multiple times because older object photography, older editorial photography, older office documents from the permanent records have different metadata embedded in their headers that are available to us. So we had to do multiple mappings and really carefully follow our inventories. We had to create a custom schema in XML for CMA local fields to supplement the Dublin core and the IPTC metadata that we were extracting and mapping. And we also had to do an extensive inventory of all the different file types we had and determine what and where we wanted to normalize and what and where we wanted to use the originals. Our preferred formats, just for your information, were TIFF and PDFA, but we do have numerous other formats that we're ingesting as well as companions. The two issues that we're working through now are figuring out a fancy way to preserve photo studio edits and color balancing when we take a DNG and collapse it to a single layer TIFF for preservation. And also, we're working out the intricacies of automating some of the workflow steps so that we can do all of the multiple different mappings from a single import source. So, lots and lots of work and lots of fun. But this is probably the coolest project that nobody will ever hear about except you. And if you want to talk about it, please come up later. I'd like to introduce you to Jean DeBonis, who is our local rocket scientist and Iron Man, who is going to talk about all the work she's done bringing our web presence and our content management into the modern age with Drupal.
I am Iron Man.
Do you want me to do something else? That's okay.
As Nikki said, my name is Jean DeBonis, and I was hired 2 years ago to bring the web development in-house at the museum. Even before I came on board, the decision was made to migrate the website to Drupal. And so I just kind of walked in and this was already what we had decided, and so it was kind of threefold. We decided to do this in 3 steps. First, we would convert the museum's staff intranet to Drupal, and then the public website, and then the museum's library website. The museum's staff intranet would serve as a test bed for the software functionality and then also the internal content management process. Because we didn't have a true content management system for the staff intranet, now we would be able to give our staff members the ability to navigate the information and find it quickly, and also they'll have the list of events and the latest news on the homepage. But the most important thing was that it was going to test the content management gatekeeper strategy that we had that we would eventually use for the website for content management. After the intranet was converted, we would convert the museum's public website. At the time, we were using Sitecore as a content management system, and we had a WordPress blog. The biggest challenges of this conversion would be to fix what wasn't working right with that site, with the Sitecore site, and also to migrate 65,000 pages worth of information. And then finally, we keep talking about Will. When we brought Will in, he would then convert the WordPress-based library website to Drupal as well. So let's look at our intranet. This is our high-tech linkified HTML page that was serving as the current intranet when I first got to the museum. So obviously installing Drupal at all without even having a custom design would be a huge improvement on that. And content management system would give us things like document search and streaming news. But the biggest challenge of this, that was the easy part. The biggest challenge was going to be retraining our staff members to have to manage their own content. And that was, oh my God, we have more work. We're going to give these people more work to do. And even though we're giving them a very simple tool, that's always scary to people. So we eventually had to come up with creative ways to get them to actually go to the intranet and look at the information and see how useful it was. And then we scared them into it by taking away their mass broadcasting tool, which was the all-staff email.
Can we get a booyah?
That was Jane. She had to beat them with that. And they were. So anyway, we did a few things like not yet. We forced people's browser homepage to go to the intranet, and we had some fun things like a scavenger hunt to kind of force people to go and search for things. And we overcame all of these challenges, and now we get 2 to 3 news updates per day, and the content is growing on a regular basis. So they finally are adopting this as part of their process. And so I just wanted to show you a quick look at what the Drupal site looks like. And the main points are, along the top is the most important links to some of the other employee portals, the streaming news on the homepage, and our events list over to the right. So after we did that, then we needed to look at the website. So we've proved Drupal's going to work, and people are okay with the interface. So the existing site that we had was developed in Sitecore. And Sitecore itself is not a bad content management system. It's just, it was very poorly implemented by third-party developers. It was heavily customized, and we couldn't do any of the functionality updates in-house. So we were basically having to pay them anytime we wanted to update the software. We had to pay the license fees, and then if one of us was going to take on the responsibility of updating functionality, it would be training fees. So obviously bringing in an open source solution is the way to go on this. But the major disadvantages were that the site itself broke a lot of search engine functionalities, like we couldn't do SEO, and our Google images disappeared from the Google Image Index, which is, we're an art museum. If you can't get to our website through Google Image Index, that's bad. So we needed to fix that. We needed our images to show up in Google, and also it wasn't easy to do social sharing because of we have these crazy URLs. So we had to create little short links, and the images would never show up in social media sites when you tried to share something. And then, last of all, one of Nikki's pet peeves is this site broke the first law of web browsing, which is thou shalt not break the browser back button. And you could never hit the back button and go back to where you were. So that was maddening to people. So anyway, I'm preaching to the choir when I talk about the advantages of Drupal. But I just want to note that unlike Sitecore, our content managers would no longer need a PhD in order to use the admin interface of Sitecore, which was very advantageous to getting people to put information in. And then the developer community was very highly engaged, and we know we can get help very quickly. And it also opened up opportunities for us to potentially collaborate with our peers in the nonprofit sector. So this is I'm not going to go over everything here, but I just want to mention our website project was a 6-month development timeline, which is just crazy. And at first we didn't know how we were going to do it, but what we ended up doing was bringing in third-party developers, Drupal developers, to help us with some of the decision-making in this massive migration. We needed to launch in mid-December because ArtLens was going to be live, and we needed to be able to stream our events and also allow that social sharing Jane had talked about earlier. So we had, and then there was the special challenges that we had, which were to integrate with the Piction Dam, and that would allow us to have our entire museum online collection in Drupal, but the integration involved a weekly refresh of 60,000 art objects, which includes their images and all of their metadata. And then one of the things we wanted to do, even though we weren't planning on a site redesign, we had to do a little bit of redesign because of that functionality issues I was talking about with Google. So the first goals, or the goals of the site design or redesign, was to fix the things that weren't broken. So fix the SEO problems, reinstate the Google images, and make the social sharing work. And then we had to stay within the guidelines of our already branded site. So we decided to keep as much of the general look as we could, and then update the layout and functionality where that was possible. So I just wanted to show you a quick look at this. Is our homepage, and one of the unique things about our website is these landing pages, the homepage and these section pages are actually illustrated navigation systems. So that's actually the menu as well as the imagery. And then this is like one of our landing pages this is our visit page. So it's got the menu links are right there on the page, but it also has all the imagery. So those pages stayed the same. And then we updated the look, we slightly updated the look of our content pages. What we ended up doing was that one of the problems with this site was, if you look at the top image, the page is overlaying that menu system behind it. So in order to get to the menu system, you had to click close, and this just wasn't intuitive to people. And obviously it caused all sorts of problems with HTML. So what we ended up doing was we moved all of the menu over to the left-hand side, so now it's a comfortable, familiar place. And then we freed up some area on the page by moving those right links, if you see over to the right on the top image. Those are like the related content. We moved those also over to the left-hand side. So now all your navigation is on the left-hand side. But here's where Drupal is very powerful in our collection online search and retrieval of our art information. And with everything in Drupal now, it allowed us to use the Apache Solr search, which is a much faster way to search for information online. And even though it looks the same, if you notice, we could do the faceting, which is a comfortable way to drill down to the information you're looking for. And then we also had this hover over the artworks, which would bring up a little at a glance with the full piece of artwork and the dates and the artists. And then the collection online pages, again, they had those overlays where the big image of the artwork, and then underneath it was all those numbers underneath it. Those are like a slideshow, but that was not intuitive to people that those are slides. And then all the tombstone information, the art metadata, was below the fold. So this was not, if you wanted to look at something, you'd have to go back and forth and back and forth. So what we ended up doing was we moved all of the tombstone information at the equal, like right beside the artwork with pocketed descriptions, and the metadata you could open and close. So it's all at a glance, and you could be looking at the artwork and then also scrolling through, because we have now added the thumbnail carousel at the bottom. So it was a huge improvement on the way. Oh, and then something else I forgot to mention earlier, which was one of the goals of the site redesign was to also create a responsive design with our site. And that was a big challenge because the site itself, we had made decisions we wanted the entire site to be available, and we wanted to maintain as much imagery as possible, which was one of our design guidelines. And also, we wanted it to feel comfortable for somebody using a small format, which, again, with these card deck layouts, they wrapped, and you'll see on the next, it just didn't work. You'd have to scroll forever on the left-hand side to get to any of the navigation for the website. So what we ended up doing was we decided to create a whole new design just for the mobile site. All the information would still be in Drupal, but we had to come up with a way to switch it over to a different site. So if you notice on the right-hand side, that's the actual final design where everything is a little bit more compact, but we still can have the imagery in that one main area. And the search is right at the very top. So if somebody's looking for something, that's the first thing they can look for. And then I just wanted to tell you a little bit how we implemented it. We abandoned the responsive design, but only below the tablet level, because it actually looks really good on an iPad. And then we created a separate theme just for the mobile site, which also had separate functionality in Drupal. We had to add some swipe and scroll functionality because some of the little widgets that we were using didn't actually work on the touch screen. And then we decided, after exploring several different Drupal modules and ways to do this, we decided to install a server-side switching using Apache Mobile Filter. So the actual detection of the platform is done on the server side. And then Apache delivers up m.clevelandart.org. That's the mobile site domain. Drupal sees it's coming from m. And it uses the domain access module as all we needed. It just does the switch to the new theme. So that's how we did it. And that's it.
So you can see that the team's been really lazy, doing nothing. And while you can find them in bars at 10:30 in the morning, you know. No, so because we've done all these really big technology projects and really looked at the big picture, we have now gotten the museum to really understand that we need a big picture, a big digital strategy to develop and implement for all the different areas and have key people involved. So we now have a team of the director of collections, library, exhibitions, education, marketing, and myself to create a plan for the museum that will really let us set up a system that will allow Cleveland Museum of Art to continue doing innovative projects, but also have the backbone and the system in place so that the creative ideas that people come up with can be implemented quicker and content reusable. So, and now those are the objectives of the team came together with, and then now, way we can do this, we can enjoy the big picture, and I just love showing this image because it's our collection wall at our yearly outdoor party streaming across the wall, and that was because we already had the back end in place. So, thank you.